Moses done very well. So let's not come up with excuses. If you go in and ring, you're not 100%. Don't give us the bullshit. When
everyone's talking about, Dillian having an injury, and I think Dave probably got wind of that. I thought that we're just gonna press early and see what we're given. And he was caught quite early on the back of the head and on the side.
Should Dillian Whyte have been allowed to continue? He wanted to continue. Was he saved by the referee?
Yeah, I think he was taking clean shots, unsturdy. I think the referee came in at the right time.
Derek Chisora didn't hold back for a single second when he ripped into Dillian Whyte following his brutal defeat to teenage sensation Moses Itauma. With his trademark bluntness, Chisora tore away every excuse Whyte tried to cling to, blasting him as a washed-up fighter whose time has clearly expired. He made it absolutely clear there was no
Yeah. So, but what I'm gonna say is, people always say, "Oh, I was not well, that's why I lost the fight." No, didn't lost the fight because the younger man has stepped up and then you got caught. The first show which killed him was a tempo show.
Controversy about the result. No injury, no bad luck, no ring rust. Itauma simply beat Whyte fair and square. Fans already worn down by Whyte's endless stream of excuses over the years could only laugh as Chisora humiliated him in front of the entire boxing world. And Chisora wasn't the only one.
He's done everything possible, so he got in there and was beaten by the better man. Did he lose or did he get beat? He got beat. So it's a case of how he deals with it.
Nelson also piled on, cutting through Whyte's post-fight narrative with sharp honesty. Nelson didn't sugarcoat the reality. Whyte wasn't unlucky, and he wasn't robbed. He was simply beaten by the better man. His words hammered home the truth. This defeat wasn't questionable or controversial. It was decisive, conclusive, and brutally straightforward. Then came Eddie Hearn, Whyte.
Very sad. I just watched it back. He really didn't land much clean. He is unbelievable, Moses. He's a brilliant talent. But Dillian, when Dillian Whyte accepted this fight, I was very surprised. And I think probably we saw the reason why tonight. I think that's the end of the road.
T's longtime promoter, and his words carried the sting of cold reality. Hearn admitted just how shocking the decline truly was. Dillian had nothing left, he said bluntly. At 37, coming off long stretches of inactivity, Whyte looked like a shell of the fighter he once was. Against a fearless, powerful teenager like Itauma.
Hey, listen, you got caught the head on the temple. And then after that, it was a long night for him. I'm a bit sad because I didn't want him to go out like that.
Excuse making. Years in the game and still not ready for a lefty.
Yes,
Chisora sneered. That's not bad luck. That's amateurish. And he was right. Whyte was faded. But Itauma still had to step in there and do the job. And he did it with ruthless efficiency. One southpaw shot to the temple, and Whyte's night was over. Derek Chisora mocked the whole scenario, practically laughing at Whyte's
At the end of your career, you'll look at your bank balance and say to yourself, you know what, it was worth it. Dillian Whyte can look at his bank balance and say, last night's fight was worth it. Did he do it for the money? He probably did. Moses Itauma is a huge name, and it would have been a massive scalp to have had, but it was
not bad luck. That's amateurish. And he was right. Whyte had no business hiding behind stories when he'd been dismantled so easily. Duke McKenzie twisted the knife further with brutal honesty. He openly suggested the only reason Whyte stepped into the ring with Itauma was for money. And looking back, he wasn't wrong. Whyte had no realistic chance. To think he could scalp the young lion was laughable. All he walked away with was a swollen face, a bruised ego, and a heavier bank account. This wasn't a fight for legacy. It was a desperate cash grab, and fans could see right through it. Trainer Dave Coldwell added his voice to the chorus, and his words cut with pain.
It's way too much for him, and it's going to be, quite a nasty ending for him, a nasty ending to a career. I was worried for Dillian going into that this would be that fight, and it was. I mean, that. You don't get as it can't be any worse than that to put
painful truth. This wasn't just another defeat for Whyte, it was the final punctuation mark on a fading career. Everyone in boxing circles had seen this collapse coming. Everyone except Whyte himself. He strutted into the ring with his trademark bravado, but within moments he was folded by a teenager, who made him look like a slow, outdated journeyman. This wasn't just a defeat, Coldwell said, it was the ugliest full stop imaginable. Whyte T's career ended not with glory, but with humiliation. For years, Whyte T clung to relevance. But this fight stripped away the illusion. His time is finished, and Moses Itauma wrote the final chapter in savage style. Tyson Fury, never one to shy away from harsh truths, joined in. He reminded everyone that boxing...
So here's the opinion, you've heard it here first. Moses Itauma will wreck all them old men out of the division. Usyk, AJ, Miller, whoever there is who's old, Zhang, fucking whoever else there is, Luis Ortiz, all these big names of the past are all a spent force. And even the world champion now, if they took my belts and give them to Usyk, Moses will wreck him. Because he's a young man versus an old man. An old man
is a young man's game, and Moses Itauma had just proved it by wrecking Whyte T. Fury mocked the entire generation of aging heavyweights still hanging on. Old legs don't beat hungry lions, he declared. It was the harshest truth of all. Itauma's speed, power, and fearlessness exposed every weakness in fighters like Whyte T. This wasn't just a loss, it was a death sentence for the old guard. Even Buddy McGirt, one of the sport's most respected trainers, sounded baffled. He dismissed Whyte T's talk of injuries or poor preparation, saying bluntly that nobody believed it anymore. Whyte T wasn't unlucky, McGirt said. He was floored, humiliated, and left apologizing to fans after Itauma tore him apart. But the question lingered. What exactly was Whyte T apologizing for? For stepping into a fight he was never ready for.
First time me hearing it, you know what I mean? I didn't hear anything like that, so excuse me, I really couldn't elaborate on that, to be honest with you.
For pretending he still belonged at this level. McGirt's hesitant tone revealed what everyone already knew: there was no way to spin this. Whyte T had been destroyed by a teenager, and no trainer could dress that disaster up. Mark Tibbs tried to be diplomatic, but even his comments added to the humiliation. He pointed out that Whyte T looked in shape, but in truth that only made the performance worse. Physically, he might have looked the part, but in the ring he was exposed as a man finished at the highest level. Fitness doesn't turn back the clock, and conditioning can't protect a fighter from young, hungry talent. Dillian Whyte's twilight years were on full display. His reactions were slow.
Dillian shaped up well. I thought he was in fantastic nick, but when you're at your twilight years and you're working on your weight, etc., it's taxing on yourself. And
punch resistance fragile, and his ability to compete at the elite level was gone. Mark Tibbs' attempt to soften the blow, pointing out that Whyte T looked fit, only highlighted the grim reality. Looking fit but fighting old is no defense at all. Whyte T was finished, both physically and mentally. Amir Khan summed it up with a line that echoed across the boxing world. Speed kills. And on this night, Moses Itauma's speed killed off the last remains of Whyte's career. Nobody expected Whyte T to collapse so quickly, but Itauma's speed, accuracy, and power exposed every weakness still clinging to him. Khan admitted he thought Whyte's experience might trouble the teenager early, but that illusion vanished instantly. Whyte T never landed anything meaningful. Instead, he was caught cold and
quick. Speed kills, as you know. Speed kills, and he had but not only the speed, he had the power with that, and the accuracy was on point. I mean, I didn't think it was gonna. I thought it'd be the opposite, where Dillian might win the first couple of rounds with his power, but I think it just shows how strong Itauma is and how powerful he is. He's a big threat.
Humiliated by a fighter young enough to be his apprentice. That was the ultimate embarrassment. Whyte T wanted to prove he still had something left, but Itauma made him look outdated and helpless in less than a blink. Khan's verdict wasn't just praise for Itauma, it was a reality check for Whyte T. No excuse about fitness, injury, or rust can hide the truth anymore. He is finished. Antonio Tarver's assessment was equally ruthless. The former light heavyweight champion said Whyte stepped into the ring hoping for a miracle punch but instead got mauled. Tarver put it bluntly. Whyte T's reputation was already battered from multiple knockout defeats, and Itauma smashed whatever was left. In Tarver's view, Whyte T is no longer a credible opponent. He has been reduced to a name on a resume, a step...
Came in here, being knocked out a couple times, wanted to see could he land a punch on this young kid, but he didn't have a chance tonight. He got mowed over, and this is a big win for a young guy. But he got to continue to fight credible opponents, and he got to get tested. He got to fight a young fighter like himself. and beat a credible opponent like that. Not these old, washed-up fighters that he can only just...
Stepping stone for young fighters to pad their rise. Tarver praised Itauma's performance but made it clear the breakdown of Whyte's career is complete. Once a respected contender, Whyte is now cannon fodder, ridiculed for even believing he could hang with the next generation. Then came Frank Warren, and his words put the final stamp on the night. He described Itauma's dismantling of Whyte not just as a victory, but as the start of a generational shift. And Warren wasn't exaggerating. Moses Itauma displayed every tool of a future superstar: speed, power, composure, and fearlessness. Whyte, meanwhile, looked like a relic of the past, exposed and humiliated as a new era broke through. Warren said what everyone else was already thinking. If Itauma continues at this pace, he could become the defining heavyweight of his generation, spoken about alongside the greats. For Whyte, that was the bitterest humiliation.
We're seeing history being made with him. I really do feel he's going to be a fighter of his generation and of the. I think in time, if he continues to do what he does, he will be up there with all the great heavyweights of all time.
His downfall will forever be remembered as the night Moses Itauma announced himself to the world. From headliner to highlight reel victim, Whyte's name is now etched in history, not as a great champion but as the stepping stone who launched boxing's next superstar. Whyte can make excuses, but the truth is written in bold. He was humiliated by a teenager and exposed as a finished fighter. Chisora